It's all good and well for me to tell people about how my investing journey was and how it's going now. But it's important for me to remember the most key area that really helped me towards being able to invest my money in the right places. So one of those things I really did have to sit down and do was I had to figure out how to manage my personal finances. And I'll just take you through a few key stages that have helped me personally. One of the most important things that I found, this was really useful to me in my early stages. During my time at university, I ran into some difficulties with my own finances, and I went to the student advisory board just to see if they can get me some help to figure out what to do with my finances, how I can best manage that to make the best use of my finances. Anyways, one of the most key aspects and one of the most obvious, we've heard it 100 times, write out a list of all your income and expenses. Now the expenses is the key area, because if you realize now, what I found out personally is that I was spending more than my income was, or it was just about the same. That was clearly a bad thing, because it means that you continuously dig yourself into a deeper and deeper hole, and over time that deep hole becomes too deep to be able to climb out of. So that was my personal experience with that one. It really helped me to accelerate in a way that I had never thought would be possible, by making just such a simple, small change can really change everything for you. So it's important to really pay attention to things like that. It's an obvious one, but one of the most essential. It does help you to figure out where your money is going and being able to cut some of those unnecessary expenses. Because the whole idea of it is we're trying to get to a destination that can better help us to be able to invest. Get yourself a free credit score checker service. Okay, there are many different services out there. You just need to find the right one that works for you. Now, I personally use ClearScore. All the ones I'm going to share with you are ones that I use personally. I never show people things I haven't used personally or don't have any experience with. So I'll just do a quick walkthrough on what those are. First one on the list here, ClearScore. Now ClearScore I've been using for at least 3 or 4 years, and it has really helped me. The reports are really useful, so you do get all of it for free. So as you can see here, your credit score and report for free forever. So I've been using it in the early stages of their development, and it has been a really interesting journey. And yeah, so I can monitor everything about my credit score and the different factors affecting my credit score. And you can also get credit card services and loan services. Now I'll talk a little bit about credit cards and how to manage those a bit later in the video. Next one, Experian. Quickly, everyone does know what Experian is, so I won't go into it, but they do offer you a free service to be able to monitor your credit score, which I find to be helpful, because you do want to see as wide a picture of as many services as you can. And at the bottom here you can see that some of the big banks already offer this as built into their service. So Capital One I do use, and they do have their built-in credit monitoring. Same for Barclays as well. I can monitor my credit score that way too. Next one on the list is Money Supermarket. Most people would be familiar with that one in the UK, because it is a popular service. Now, why am I mentioning this on the credit score checker section? And the reason for that is they provide a free tool to be able to monitor your credit score, and I do find it to be useful as well. And the next one, Credit Karma, that's another popular one as well. They do offer a really good service. I do like the reports that they provide and the notifications that they do send as well. And this one, they do give you a weekly update. So for ClearScore, Experian and Money Supermarket, they give you a monthly, and Credit Karma offers you a weekly score checker. So I do like the fact that they do more frequent updates on there. So it's just helpful. Now, the obvious reason why you need to get your credit score in check is because if you need to get a loan of some sort, if you need to sign up for a service, you can be rejected if you have poor credit score. If you're going in for a mortgage, anything like that, they do take your credit score or your credit profile into account. So the score itself is not the important thing, but it's about all those other things that make up your entire credit profile that they use to determine if you're a good person to lend money to. Now, debt isn't a bad thing, which we'll see later on. We'll talk a little bit about how you can manage your debts to make them work for you a little bit better. You need to focus on what your credit score or your credit profile is looking like, and you need to work really hard on fixing it. So that's one of the things I had to do personally. I had to break it down to the lowest level and start working on my credit score. And as my credit score improved, my confidence overall in my spending and my managing my personal finances also progressed far beyond my own expectations. So that's one of the reasons you might want to fix your score. Now, I did mention briefly that I'll be doing a little bit, going a little bit into managing debt. Okay, so for me personally, when I first moved to this country about 8 or 9 years ago, I did find myself accumulating debt over time because there were just some necessities that I needed in the early stages and didn't really have the money for it at the time. So I needed to make use of debt in order to get where I wanted to be. So I had a few store cards, I had a few credit cards, which I did use as well to build up my own credit score, because you need to have some sort of credit card or store card in order to build up your credit score. So I did use those ones. At one point I had a total amount of debt, can't remember clearly, but I think it was at least £10,000. And one of the things I had to figure out was, how am I going to be able to manage all this debt efficiently? Because if you think about what debt does to you, is you have to continuously pay out a certain amount per month, and they usually give you the minimum, and you might feel like you're doing a good thing by meeting those minimum requirements, but what you find is over time you end up paying so much more on that total loan, as opposed to if you had that money up front to be able to buy whatever you needed to. So you end up paying off mostly the interest. Now, I was stuck in a loop of paying off this debt for at least 5 or 6 years before I realized really what the debt was actually doing to me. So I came up with a plan of, I realized I needed to consolidate the debt. Put some of my debts on a 0% transfer, a balance transfer card it was. I set up about 2 or 3 of them, sent the debt to those consolidation pots, and started paying off at a much faster rate. The next point is going to tie into this one really well. So if you're thinking, okay, at the present moment I'm not able to pay off my debts, well, you need to realize that, okay, the obvious thing would be, I need to earn more. And how do you get to a point of being able to earn more? A job is an easy way of doing that. Maybe you have some skill that you can use and contribute to being able to earn you some income to be able to pay off that debt. Now, you do not need to fully pay off all your debt before you start investing, but you need to at least get to a point of being able to manage it, because I still have some debts up to this day, and I focus on managing all that as efficiently as possible. So same as I spoke about in the first point, you need to find out your income versus your expenses and try to balance that as best as you can so that you're able to get to your financial goals quickly and efficiently. How do you then get to a point of being able to optimize your income, whatever it is, no matter how small it is? In my early days, I was only bringing in £5,000 per year at one point, and I realized, okay, if I'm gonna go out and rent on my own, it's not going to work. So I had to then, with one of my college friends, who became my, and still is, my housemate, my flatmate, we share the same living space so that we're able to pay, share the rent, share the bills, share food expenses, all of that. So you're able to bring your debt down to a level that's manageable, and again to be able to maximize and to optimize the amount you have to put elsewhere. We need to get into the mindset of being able to efficiently use whatever we have, no matter how small it is. You can always find somewhere and some way to optimize whatever you have. Okay, so people do live off of a lot less than you do, and I know and understand as you earn more, your expenses also increase. It's just a natural progression of life, and that's why again you do need to build yourself up, and it does take time. Build yourself up to a point where you have additional slices of income in that total pie that you're able to put your money into other places to work for you. It's not an overnight process. It took me several years before I was able to get to a point of being able to invest my money and be comfortable with it. So it's not impossible. You don't need to have everything figured out either. You don't need to have a complicated process. For your budget, a simple Excel spreadsheet can work. That's what I use to this day. I started off with an Excel spreadsheet or pen and paper, and I'm still using those methods to this day. Nothing complicated. Keep it simple. So as another point for what do you do with the additional money if you do have any left over, but really you should try to have some kind of funds, same as you would set up a direct debit or a standing order to pay for your rent. I personally believe in the idea of setting up a standing order to pay into your own pot, your own savings pots, just in case you need that money for emergencies. Your toaster might break, you might need to get a new toaster, or your kettle, or your microwave, whatever it is. There comes a point that you're going to need some kind of emergency help. And especially if you have kids like I do, that becomes even more essential, as kids might need new school shoes, new school bag, whatever it is at any point. They might need lessons, and maybe you don't get paid on time, but you can quickly dip into that. Anyways, you might be thinking, hey, I'm already broke, so where does that money come from? Now, I thought the same thing to myself too, and it wasn't until, again, I wrote out that list, took a deep look at where my money was being spent. I said to myself, hey, I'm out here paying all these subscription services, and I'm not paying any money to myself. So why not, instead of paying into some of these pots, cut one or two of those services out and pay that money into one of your accounts so it disappears as quickly as it came in, but it's going into something that will eventually be of good use for you in the future. Another point to add to that one as well is, just as you would diversify the number of pots you have for savings, and emergency funds, I also believe strongly that we should go as far as having different bank accounts with different banks. So you can imagine the scenario where, for whatever reason, a single bank's systems have gone down, and it has happened before, so that it's not impossible. So if one bank goes down and you cannot get access to that money, you don't really know how long it's going to take for that system to get back up. And you might be in a very desperate scenario where you need to have some cash, and you need to have that cash now. So you can have, or you're more likely to be able to rely on having multiple banks. I personally have savings in 4 different banks. Now, the savings aren't a lot, but it's still sensible to get into that mindset before we get to the point of being able to better or have more money available to us. We want to work on creating good habits while we're broke, so that when we do get to a point of having enough that we need, we're in a better mindset. We want to create a whole different dynamic in the way we think about money and the way we approach finances and wealth creation. And my final few points would be for those who are a little bit more advanced, or for those who have kids, because it becomes even more relevant. Now, one of the things I had to figure out as well is with me having kids, what happens to them when I'm not able to work, or if something happens to me and it causes my life to be ended at short pace. So you want to be thinking about things like pensions and life insurance. Even dental insurance and health insurance comes into all of this whole different dynamic on it. So you're never really too young. As long as you have kids, you're never really too young to set something aside in preparation for these emergency scenarios. So I had to sit down and I had maybe pension in 3 different pots, and I realized they do provide you a lot more detail about your pension pots than I ever imagined in my wildest dreams. They give you details down to the projected earnings, how much, if you put X in, how much you're expected to get back over a period of time. And I had to take a serious look at it and realize that if this is all I'm going to have when I get to retirement age, then I don't really, I can't rely on that. Hence the reason I'm so big on investing, and investing for your future. You'll thank yourself later on in life for having built up all of this wealth around you. As a quick summary, I'll just quickly talk about what we discussed in this video. First one, coming up with a list of your expenses and your income. Keep it simple. You don't need any complicated processes. A simple pen and paper works, or simple Excel spreadsheet. Take a quick look at it every now and again, see if you've been sticking to your budget, whatever you create off the back of that. There should be an output for everything that we do. We don't just do for the sake of doing, right? You have to follow these processes too. Making use of free credit score services. I did mention ClearScore, Money Supermarket, Experian, and Credit Karma as quick ones. I personally use those services. I find them to be really helpful for me as I was building my personal finances. I still use them to this day. Always have, always will be. Consolidating your debts, really important. Make use of balance transfer cards. So debt is not the ultimate evil. Credit cards are not the ultimate evil. How you use them determines the outcome of everything you do in your life. You need to build a credit score regardless to what you believe. You need to have a credit score if you're going to make it to a point of building wealth. Creating different savings pots, save with different banks, create different savings accounts. There was a lady I learned from, she had 21 different accounts. That was a bit excessive, but she taught me the lesson of getting myself into that frame of mind where I'm creating all these different pots, right? Because we learned as kids from our family, they did have all these different places that they put their money, not just in one place. You might have some money in your socks, you might have some money in your shoes, you have some money in your hat, some money in the roof. When I was growing up, that's what I did. Keep all this money in these different places. Wasn't a lot, but it worked. So those habits that I had then, I still have now. You need to also think about, not because you're young and fit, you need to think about health insurance, dental insurance, life insurance, and pensions. Your future self will thank you for it. Anyways, thanks for watching again. Have a good one. Out.